Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you today. That's my presentation. My paper is in your packs, so if anyone wants to look at the paper, they may do that. But because we have a very brief time, so I'm not going to narrate the events, because events are something which are usually very well covered by the media sometime. I would go on the root causes in my presentation today. So on the cover here, this bit of explanation, you can see Sikh genocide 1984, when the Sikhs were burnt alive at the streets of Delhi. We can see Muslim families being converted to Hinduism recently at the city of Agra. We can see a 90 years plus old American resident who is on hunger strike for more than 125 days now, requesting Indian government to release the Sikh political prisoners who have already completed the sentences, are being held in the jails for the last 10 years. And we can see Dalits saying, cast out caste. And we can see there the churches and the cross being burned. So before we go to the details, let's have a look. What is the Indian religious composition? So that's India's religious composition. But my apologies to you that this is based on 2001 census of India. Unfortunately, Indian government is not releasing the latest data on the religious composition of India. The census again took place in 2011, and now we are in 2015, but government of India is not willing to release the statistics of religious minorities in India. One of the reasons is, it is reported in the press widely, that Hinduism has declined by 3% in India, and Muslims have an increase of about 2% and Christianity 1%, but the latest statistics are not yet released by the government of India yet. But you can see here that India is quite a diverse country with multi-faiths, and these minorities are not thousands, they are not 100,000, they are crossing millions. So India is quite a diverse country with a lot of ethnic and religious minorities. So now, we'll try to understand today that what is BJP, Hindutva, and religious pluralism, because India, its constitution, declared it as a religious pluralistic secular state. But what's going wrong? Because we are narrating events here, but what are the root causes? I think the biggest thing which people are referring to is Hindutva. So what is Hindutva? I've taken this text from 1924 publication of Savarkar, in which he has explained himself what Hindutva is. And this is the ideology which is being followed by the Singh Parwar at the moment, which clearly narrates anyone who is born in India who believes the whole from Indus to seas, that is a Hindu. So for them, Hinduism is not a religion but is a civilization, and anyone who is born in India should be Hindu. And then we have the Sangh Parwar here. We have BJP in the center, which is a ruling party at the moment. But it is very much complemented and very closely linked with RSS, which is, I would say, that's a mother organization to BJP. We have Vishwa Hindu Parishad, which is an international organization of the Hindus, which raise all the funds from these modern nations to support BJP agenda. We have Bajrang Dal and Bajrang Brigade, which carries forward a lot of their agenda, and we have BGS, which works with BJP to convert people forcefully. Now, here is this beautiful, very, very popular figure of India called Narendra Modi, actually on the top of this slide, when he joined RSS. And underneath you can also see him with RSS leadership. It looks like a bit a Nazi salute, but this is what he's doing in this picture. Now, what is the core ideology of Sangh Parwar? Why minority face all this today? That's the ideology, which says only Hindus have claim to India as a country. Sikh, Buddhists, and Jains have no separate religious identity and should submerge in Hinduism. And because this ideology says that only who are born in India and those whose holy lands are in India, they are all Hindu. So in that context, because the Muslims and the Christians and the Jews, their holy lands are elsewhere, So they shouldn't have a right to live in India, or they should be converted to Hinduism. That's what this ideology says. So there is a very popular slogan of San Parvar, Hindu, Hindi, Hindustan, that India, Indians, and the language Hindi. Now people were saying, and it has been referred by a speaker, that it's very difficult to find the links with the current government. But I would like to refer to a statement of a cabinet colleague of Mr. Modi. She's a federal minister. She recently said, Ramzadeh and Haramzadeh, which means India is for Ramzadehs, the people who are the descendant of Ram, the god of Hindus, and the rest are Haramzadeh, mean rest of the communities are bastards. So if a cabinet colleague of Mr. Modi has such a views about the religious minorities in India, then who is failing? Is that the government or someone else? So let's move on to the next one, and that's why I have given some of the core issues, because people keep referring to Constitution of India, even President Obama did, that it really safeguards the minorities. But here in this slide, I would like to quickly, briefly mention certain legal issues faced by the minorities. Let's start with Section 25. President Obama is a big fan of Section 25. He referred Section 25 in his speech that it safeguards the minorities' rights in India. But it's, for me and anyone who has read the Indian Constitution, it's quite a dubious nature article, because it's not only Section 25, it has a Section 25(2)(b) as well, which clearly submerges the religious identity of the Sikhs, of the Jains, of the Buddhists into Hinduism. And these communities have been fighting for a separate identity since 1949, saying that this Section 25 really attacks our separate identity and it should be amended. But nobody has given any consideration to that. Then we move to Freedom of Religion Acts, very, very famous acts, which is usually cited by Indian governments, that in our country there is a legislation which really preserve the freedom of religion. But these are more or less anti-conversion acts, now in place in 7 Indian states. But unfortunately, these acts are devised in the way that rather to protect minorities, they rather attack the minorities. Because these acts, if you have to become a Christian from a Hindu or a Muslim from Hinduism, then you have to go through and follow through a whole process of litigation. You have to get a lot of permissions to do that. But if you want to become a Hindu, that doesn't come under the purview of these acts, because they say it's not a conversion, it's a reconversion. So Indian legislator has accepted that everyone was Hindu, and if you want to convert to Hinduism, that's reconversion, so that shouldn't come under the purview of freedom of religion. Then we have Special Marriages Act, that if you convert from Hinduism to any other religion, you will be deprived from the right of guardianship of your kids. Can you imagine in 21st century if someone changes religion and you threaten them that you won't be able to look after your kids and they will be separated from you, you will consider 100 times whether you should convert or not. And likewise, if a woman convert to another religion from Hinduism, they will be deprived from their all sorts of support from their husbands. And there are limited inheritance rights when people convert. So Foreign Contribution Act has been mentioned by one of the panelists before me. I think this very act at the moment is there to attack the NGOs, the charities, and the groups which work for human rights specifically. Only in April, if you would know, that there were 9,000 non-governmental organizations, majority of them were having connections abroad, who were supported for human rights. They have been banned by the Modi government. 9,000 is quite a huge number. Even organizations like Greenpeace have been banned in India. So this act just concentrate on these charities. But when it comes to the charities which are linked with Hindutva and who raise a lot of funds from these countries to support the agenda of Hindutva, there is no issue with the foreign contribution. You can send as many contributions as you want in terms of foreign contributions. And then we have issues with Section 19 of the Article 19 of Indian Constitution, because there is, I don't think so, and it is referred that it's the speech which is being limited, as well as since 1960s, no foreign missionaries from abroad has been allowed to reside in India. So what sort of freedom of association we are talking about here? And then Indian Constitution asks for the right of citizenship, the equal rights. But in 21st century, this world largest democracy has 16% of population even today, which is considered untouchable, whom you call Dalits. They can't even drink the water from the same well where Hindus get their water from. They can't go to the Hindu temples. So in 21st century, you can't imagine 60% population of such a big country is still untouchable today. And they went to Supreme Court of India for justice. They said, we are equal citizens of this country. And since 2004, now it has been 11 years that Supreme Court of India has not decided what is their status of equal citizenship in India. So these are some of the very core legal and constitutional issues which are being faced by the minorities in India today. Now, there are various incidents which shows us the failure of the state to protect the minorities, but I have picked only 4 because they are various and we have limited time. We know about the Sikh genocide of 1984, and it's now very clear when you look at the definition of the United Nations about the genocide. I think there is not a single component which is missing, which clearly illustrates that it was a very well-planned genocide. And California State Assembly, therefore, has recently passed a resolution declaring it as a genocide, although Indian government will always tag it as the communal violence or communal rioting, but that wasn't the case. But the issue is that there was a commission constituted by Indian government who has asked for certain arrest of the people who were involved in the genocide, but nobody has taken any action. Rather, the people who were political prisoners since 1984, and Dr. Dhilu will elaborate more about it, they have already completed 20 years of their imprisonment, but Indian government is not releasing them for the last 10 years. Therefore, Surat Singh is now on hunger strike, that those should be released. We know about Gujarat Muslim massacre of 2002, in the way Modi, who is the current Prime Minister, was the Chief Minister of that state of Gujarat, and in the way it was handled, we know that it was again a very planned massacre of the Muslims, and now he has got a clean sheet, and the people who wanted to take this matter further to the Supreme Court of India, they are not allowed through the judicial system. But this makes me wonder one thing, that when Muslim genocide happened in Gujarat, the provincial government of BJP, and we have a central government of Indian National Congress, but nobody spoke about it. That clearly illustrates whether it's Congress, whether it's BJP or any other party, they join their hands together when it comes to minorities. Nobody talks about it. And we have Ghar Wapsi here, because one of the very close associate, Mr. Modi, said that by 2022 there will be no Christians and no Hindus, no Christians and no Muslims in India. So people are being bribed, that what is not allowed in Indian constitution. They are being offered money, they are being forced to convert into Hinduism. And Joshua already talked about the continuous persecution of Christians. Now, why all that happens, I think, I personally feel, and I have listed here all the UN conventions and declarations which India don't agree to, or they have reservations. Because we talk about UN and UN as a body to safeguard the right of the people. But what you do about a state which doesn't really agree to United Nations conventions? I don't want to go into too much detail. Detail is given in my paper. But all, including Genocide Convention 1948, India has reservations. India don't accept them completely. And Geneva Convention 1948, which is the basic of human rights. India signed it in 1948, but when that Geneva Convention has to become operational through additional protocols of 1977, India hasn't signed it, even today. So what sort of human rights we are talking about? Now, we want to make some recommendations where I've consulted the colleagues, and I will conclude with this, to the Congress, whether they take it on board or not. Our first recommendation is that United States should conduct a complete review of its foreign policy towards India and put religious freedom and human rights at the heart of all trade, aid, and diplomatic interactions with India. And the second recommendation is that the United States should not support India's permanent membership to the United Nations Security Council till India signs the 1977 additional protocols of Geneva Convention 1948 and withdraw its reservation on all those acts which I've shown you in the previous slide. Our third recommendation would be that the United States should publicly condemn the controversial Ghar Wapsi, homecoming, or mass reconversion program, and Hindutva movement that seeks to threaten, intimidate, and marginalize religious minorities in India. Fourth, United States should urge that those who committed Sikh genocide in 1984 and Muslim genocide in 2002 should be tried in International Criminal Tribunal. Fifth, United States should urge India government to immediately lift its sanctions against non-governmental organizations working for the welfare of minorities in India. And our sixth one would be that United States should identify Hindutva groups that raise funds from American citizens and support the hate campaign in India. Such groups should be banned from operating in the United States if they are found spread hatred against religious minorities in India. So these are our recommendations, and we have done our bit, that we have brought it to your attention. I would like to conclude with this: what's happening in India concerns all of us, because it's about religious pluralism. And in the way the hate speech, hate crime, and Hindutva forces agenda is being carried forward, that is completely non-productive for the state of India. I was saying to someone the other day that we have seen the religions are being misinterpreted. And the religion I belong to, Islam, is hugely misinterpreted by the groups like ISIS, because they are the ones who misrepresent my faith. Same, I think, Hindutva misrepresent Hinduism in India, and that is completely non-productive for the faith and for the country.